Guys, it's been a long time since GSL Code A, and we're finally back with an incredibly new and different format with group stages. 2 players going up to Code S, and 2 players falling down to Code B. Code A is basic, kind of like an intense version of the up and down matches all the time.
I'm actually really excited for the new format. It's one of the formats that I personally think is absolutely amazing and a great change because right now players, they actually have the chance to lose a game. In the old format, when you went through the bracket, you sometimes just hit a player that you could not defeat that just dropped down from Code S or made his first run. We saw that a couple of times with players like Avenge that couldn't qualify because in the 3rd round they were always hitting one of those really big guys, and even though he was playing amazing, it was very tough for him to do that. Now he has a chance in the group to lose one of the games, and as 2 players advance, 2 of them have a shot for Code S. I'm very excited for it. And also, you can just tune in at one particular day and follow your player through the group, whereas in the old format, there were just 3 different days spread out over a couple of weeks. So it was very, very difficult as a fan to really follow the player that you like.
And you never were really sure if his matches were going to be broadcast or which day they were going to be broadcast on. But now you say, okay, this is my player. I'm following him. This is his day. Can he make it today or not? It's make or break it every single day. And we have all of our matches broadcast, again, at 1 p.m. Korean Standard Time, and then at 6 p.m., 5 hours later. So we've got all the matches broadcast here, which is really exciting for everybody, I think.
Yeah, exactly. I'm pretty happy about that. We're talking a lot with GOM about doing it on private streams, having community casters do it, and there were a lot of things that were discussed, and in the end GOM decided that they wanted to just have everything on the channel, broadcast everything officially, and I think that's a great idea. So right now we're having a long day of StarCraft II ahead of us, and it's going to get really exciting with the new format. Players are really pumped for it. The new season, we have Code A now back, so we renamed everything once again, and I love it.
And this is basically the best way, I think, to do a group where you have 4 players and you have 5 best of 3s. You know, you have the first 2 matches, then you have the winner's match, the loser's match, and then the final match. It's just like Code S. So we're going to take a look, of course, at our info.
Yeah, the schedule first, and of course also a quick overview of how exactly everything is going to work this season. The maps also pointed out. Daedalus Point, the map that has been discussed quite a lot in the community. We have Yonsu, Polar Knight, Habitation Station, Heverine, Frost, and Alterim Strongholds. The maps that should be familiar by now. They've been discussed on Reddit and Team Liquid quite a bit, and we've seen them in several tournaments already being used.
Yeah, and if you play ladder, you know these maps. So the same ladder maps that you'll find on Battle.net. So maps that are pretty interesting. We'll see how they play out this season. And as I mentioned before, the first 2 players will advance to Code S, then the 3rd and 4th places will be going back down to Code B, so not a good place to be. Makes all of these groups really, really important for players' careers.
And because of the shift that we have with the system, we had a very, very stacked lineup in this year's Code A qualifier. It was pretty exciting, and even foreign players participating. State was there and did quite well, was very close to actually defeating DRG and advancing to the winners final in the end. He dropped out though, but really good effort by him.
And here's, of course, our race distribution. We have a really, really even race distribution if you look at it. Protoss is just slightly ahead, but 15 Terrans, 17 Prosts, and 16 Zergs. Really big names in here. So many SKT players getting in this season, and so many big names in it. Like Leonok, you look at the Zergs there, somebody you all know. Symbol, Hurricanes in here, Squirtle, Ruin, Bravo, Fantasy, Innovation, Gumiho. I mean, I could list them all, but just picking a few names out of the list, it's a 6-6 season.
It's a definitely intense lineup that we have there, and this is why those groups are going to be really amazing. They all want to go back into Code S, of course, or a lot of them, and having to go through the qualifiers first was also quite the obstacle. But we saw most of the favorites actually do quite well in the qualifiers, so it was really interesting to see how that developed, and then now they have the chance to go straight to Code S, participate in this season, and it's going to be pretty epic.
It's basically really good for the players this season because the qualifiers even gave you second chances, and you have now a situation where in the old days, if you lost 1 best of 3, like you said before, you don't get straight into Code S. If you lose just 1 best of 3, now you're in a group stage where you can lose that best of 3, and you're playing against 3 other players in the group, so you might be able to get out anyways.
Yep. So right now we're having today in our starting group, we have, of course, a 4-player group with 3 Zerg players this time, and here they are. So these are today's matches. We have in the group Effort, Curious, Sleep, and Ruin. 1 Protoss player to rule them all, maybe. We're going to find out. No Terrans in group number 1.
Yep. And a little bit unfortunate for Ruin, who did play a Pro League yesterday in a completely different matchup. He played a PBT, and he lost to TY, so spoiler alert there. But now he's playing against 3 Zerg players, so he has to completely shift gears for him. But on the other hand, for him, it's nice that he only has to practice for one matchup, PvZ, whereas the other Zergs have to think about ZvZ, but also know that they may face Ruin and a Zerg versus Protoss. So just talking about race distributions, that's something to consider.
Yeah, it's definitely always one of the things, how much do you really prepare for the ZVP if you're playing mostly Zerg players. But keep in mind that this format, one player can actually be your downfall. Of course, you get a second chance if you lose one match. You can still go to the loser's match and then win there. But in the end, in this format, one of the big negatives that people have been highlighting in the past is that a single player can just completely throw you out of the group.
Yeah, totally true. You have a top name player like Innovation Fallout of Code S, and then you hit him in the bracket, you just lose right there, and you have to start all over. You got to go the up and downs. But now we have a much better format. Tonight we'll be highlighting a little bit more going forward here. The first map for this Zerg vs. Zerg is Habitation Station, one of our newer maps for this season. And this is the very first time we're going to see it in Korea. Looks like we're going to jump into the game right away here.
Yeah, Curious going up against Effort. This is going to be a really good one, especially Effort is so strong in Zerg versus Zerg. Curious in the past has been one of the players that also in the Team League was sent out quite often to face opponent Zerg players. And therefore, this should be a really good one to open the day up. And of course, Ruin is just sitting tight now, having a quick look at what his opponents are going to do here. Not sure who he wants to face, but we're going to end the game number 1 in Habitation Station. Curious versus Effort at the GSL Code S.
Effort versus Curious.
Effort versus Curious is our first match today, and Effort starting here to the top right of the map in blue.
And the lowrider Zerg, very strong ZvZ player, not somebody to mess around with.
Up against Curious, StarTale player. Starts to the top left, and let's see what he can do today. If you just look at statistics, Effort definitely the better player, but right now we have already an opening by Curious with a 10 pool. He wants to be the aggressor in the game, and now to be seen, of course, if he goes for the gas as well and goes into a 10 pool, 10 gas and Banelings. But for Effort, we have a 70% win ratio in this matchup with 30 maps played offline in Heart of the Swarm. He's an incredibly good player. If you have in a mirror match a 70% win ratio, that says a lot about how well you actually play there. So for Curious, on the other hand, we still have 53%. That's pretty decent, especially since he was sniping a lot of very high-level opponents in the past. But let's see how much his aggression is really going to pan out for him.
Yeah,
today.
let's find out if he can get some damage done here. This is a decent map for the rush distance by ground on this two-player map. It's not too far, but Effort has actually oftentimes gone pool first in this matchup because he likes to play safe. And in this case, we'll see if his hatchery build here holds up against the Zergling aggression. 4 more Zerglings being made by Curious. He's committing quite heavily to this, 10 in total. And there's that gas being added. Yeah,
the gas is actually added a little bit late, and you can already tell that Curious wants to do damage, but he's not going completely all in. If you would have added the gas and then the Baneling Nest, it would be a completely different ball game. But for now, it's all about the Zerglings just doing some damage, moving in. He gets the Queen back at home, so we will see him with most likely a transition out of this at some point, depending on what he finds here. But with the Lings at the beginning, he can already force a cancel on this hatch, and this is exactly what he's currently doing. But he's still behind in the harvest account, and this is of course something where he has to do more damage than that.
Effort really needs to make sure that he can wait till the last second to cancel this by as much time as he can. He is literally going to cancel at the last second. There it is. We'll lose the drone. Oh, saves it. But now he has to micro his heart out with his drones until his first few Lings get out. His Queen's very much delayed as well.
The Queen's on the way, but for Curious we already have it. So right now a lot of lining time lost here, but the Lings are moving in and 1 drone kill so far. Curious trying to get a little bit more out of that. And back at home, as already mentioned before, he's already transitioning, trying to just drone up. And for Effort, it's now just the battle he has to judge, alright, how heavy are you committing from this point on out? Can I really take you with the Lings that I have and the Queen? Do I play passive and drone up again? Or can I just push you back and take my expansion? But Curious is already taking the gas, and Effort is investing into a Spinecrawler because he's not quite sure how heavy Curious is going to go on him now.
Exactly. He has 1 Overlord over on the left side of Curious's base, so he can scout a little bit with that. And he wants to know if a hatchery is being made, how much gas is being mined from Curious. And he may even start his own defensive Baneling Nest just to be safe after the Spinecrawler.
So right now the situation actually better for Curious. He was able to force a cancel on the hatch, he was able to get a bit ahead in the drone count, and he got the gas faster, which leads him into a faster speed. So looking at the positions of the two players right now, Curious with that aggression in the game, already doing some damage, forcing his opponent back, and being able to just establish a really good position for himself.
He actually is now up against a Roach Warren. Curious drops a Baneling Nest, but Effort drops a Roach Warren here. That's going to give him a little bit of safety, but if Curious just sits back and takes a hatchery now with the Roach Warren there and doesn't actually commit to the aggression, he could get extremely ahead because there's no Zergling speed for Effort either, so he can't come over here and force a cancel, and there's the hatchery going down.
So Effort was canceling or was just completely foregoing the speed for the Lings and investing into the Roach Warren, whereas we have for Curious the Speedling strategy now. The problem for Effort is that he cannot really be too aggressive with just simply having roaches in the game at the beginning, just because that speed allows Curious to be much more agile on the map and much more flexible. He can just try to surpass his opponent's army, go into the main base, and of course there is a potential double queen block at the ramp, but with the Banelings and the Lings he could bust through there, so Effort has to be careful where he positions himself on the map.
Right, and if Curious continues to put this aggression on right now at the front, and keep Effort in his main base, he's eventually just going to get ahead in economy with that second hatchery. So Effort is kind of stuck in his base on one base here, doesn't have that extra larva that Curious is going to get soon from his second hatchery, and he's kind of a sitting duck here. And like you said, he can't really be aggressive with his roaches with speed on the map for Curious.
Yep. The expansion is now coming up for Effort as well, but he's already falling a little bit behind here, as we mentioned before. Here come those few Banelings. Nice, he takes down the hatch. Really well done. And immediately the Lings are gone. He could go into the main base as well. One hatch killed, and a great lead here for Curious. Getting into the main base, scouting the roaches and the roach one. He knows everything that's happening here. This is a great position for Curious, and Effort does not have an evolution chamber. He cannot get +1 attack to double shot one of the Lings, so this is also working against him.
Yeah, this is definitely true, and he didn't even get that cancel on the hatchery, so that's a ton of minerals lost for him. He's got a drone here. I don't even know if he's going to try to remake the hatchery because he's just moving across the map with his queens right now, hoping to get something done with these roaches. But if Curious just spends all of his larvae on some Lings here, he already has 16 out on the map. I think he should easily be able to defend this. He's already got a Spine Coil on the way as well. Not looking good for Effort here. He's going to do one last-ditch effort here. No pun intended.
Yeah, he's trying to go for it with the roaches now, and he has quite a few of them, but we have Banelings to take the initial damage or to do some, and there we have little Zerglings trying to go for the spread, but a nice choke point control for here Effort at the beginning, but then he loses the gap, and now all of those roaches are going down, and this is so bad for Effort. Curious is in an amazing position. He holds against the aggression. He takes nearly no losses, takes down the entire army of Effort, and Effort is now, he's on the ropes. He's on the ground. He's being counted down by the referee already. We have Curious with 2 bases, 20 Lings in the making, a 2-base economy, and Effort, he is just crying for help.
He basically is. I mean, he's going to be attacked here at the hatchery. Should be able to ward this off, but not the next wave of Lings. Those Lings are going to put so much damage onto this hatchery. I mean, he may be able to block the ramp with his queens for a little bit, but this is not going to hold. And then, of course, Curious is going to continue to have the better production with 2 hatcheries full of larvae. The queen's in a good spot here, but it's not going to matter because there's way too many Zerglings. Transfuses for the desperation move. He's trying to buy time here.
And he does. Well, 2 queens go down, but really well done by Effort here, getting the injects off and using, of course, also the quick injects here and the transfuses. At the same time, the main base now suddenly the drones are being attacked, and this is once more mining time lost for Effort, whereas Curious is starting to get slightly ahead here. In overall supply, they're still very even, but Curious is just the one who's really putting on the screws now.
Yeah, he really is. He's just picked off a few of these drones. And queen count 2-1 here. Even though he lost those queens, he made the best of them. He got those transfuses off. Really nice micro there. Also had them in a pretty tight spot, but he's now losing even more production with the lack of larva injects.
I have to say, though, that Effort is doing a great job at staying alive in the game, and he has the faster tech into lair. Also, since he got the inject off before his queens died, he started another queen immediately, and that results in you losing very little time where you could inject. So
that's true.
It's not really the biggest lava problem for Effort, and he's really holding on to this. He was falling behind in the early game, but Curious has to be really careful. As you can see, the supply is very much the same still. We have the lead in economy for Curious. That's definitely a point here in favor of the StarTale player. But Effort is really holding on to this.
Yeah, and he has the roach count up pretty early too. It's something that's very late for Curious, who just continues to try to get harassment done with these Zerglings. He's only killed 6 workers in total, which is, you know, it's a fair point to mention, but it's not like he's done a massive amount of damage to the economy. Only up 5 harvesters right now, but that's going to change with the next wave of drones that we just saw made here for Effort. And with the faster lair tech, he definitely was feeling like he was in a pretty okay spot, I have to say, Effort. And I'm surprised, really, to see him transition so well. Really nice defense.
Yeah, it's a great defense from Effort, but Curious is still ahead. He's a little bit faster with the speed upgrade for the roaches. He has the +1 attack upgrade, a bit ahead of his opponent. We have him in with a slightly better economy from what he harvested so far. So he's ahead in the game, but Effort with a great match so far in terms of how he played defensively here. The opening was just so good for Curious, and Effort holding on to this was amazing. If he would have cancelled that hatch, it would be a very much different ballgame right now. But that one mistake cost him a lot of minerals, 300 in total. And Curious still trying to just abuse his mobility on the map with those fast speed links against the roaches.
Yep, he's picking off drone after drone here. Trading a lot of larva himself to do so, but he's just slightly ahead, as you mentioned, so it makes it worth it for him. And looking at the upgrades here, you can see that Curious is just slightly ahead with a +1, but the roach speed is even more important, because with that, he's going to be able to move across the map, be a lot more mobile with his roaches, and in a fight, he's going to be able to get that concave faster, just because his roaches are going to close the distance all the quicker.
A big problem for Effort is that he's holding on, but he is very, very passive in this. He cannot move out. So the map is dominated by Curious, and that allows him to get that gold base that we have at the top. So he's going in there straight with another hatch, and this is a big problem. The entire game, Curious was pushing and pushing and pushing, and an Effort just trying to hold. So big problem here for Effort in the long run.
Yeah, he's just never able to breathe, never able to move out. He starts the Infestation Pit here, and that's kind of a gamble, but if he can hold on to that and get some investors out, it might help him in the long run. But the question is, can he hold on to that? And if Curious doesn't actually attack into him and gets that third base economy up, he's going to be able to get a bigger roach count. And also, this is a gold base, that's going to give him a little bit of extra minerals. And on top of that, the extra larva that he gets from the hatchery. Effort doesn't have a macro hatch, so he's kind of stuck here.
And at the same time, what we currently see here also is just Curious with more and more upgrades. He's getting farther and farther ahead. He has the +2 attack upgrade already started. We have Effort just now finishing his own. Doesn't waste any time though, and starts the next attack upgrade immediately as well. That gold base is just going to spiral out of control. That's the biggest problem that Effort has, and he scouted it, so he knows he's on a clock.
Yeah, he definitely is. And Effort is moving across the map with a small roach force. He's going to need more than that, though, to try to put some pressure on this hatchery. Does decide to move back. And what do you think on this? Do you think Effort should try to actually move out and take a third base right now? Or should he just stick back and get these investors out on 2 for now? Because, I mean, it might be trying to be doing too much to take the third, but if he just keeps waiting, there's a third base going down. He really needs to do that.
Well, he thought a little bit about getting the gold expansion and then decided against it. I feel that he's going to wait for his investors, and with the third base now being started, he's probably just trying to stay there and wait if Curious maybe overextends, if the investors get a couple of good fungals off, and then he can pick off parts of the army. If that happens and Curious makes this mistake, then it could end in Effort's favor. But for now, he's falling behind, and he knows that, so he can't give Curious too much time. I would actually love to see a second evolution chamber for Curious here. He could go into a double upgrade.
Yeah.
On the other hand, he doesn't have a hive tech, so as soon as that +2 attack upgrade is done, he could just switch in the armor upgrades. But he has definitely a lot of options here, and I would like to see at least an additional tech by him.
I really like these contaminates that we keep seeing from the Overseers of Effort. And that's one small thing that you can do to kind of affect your opponent's production. This is a massive roach count, 53 to 37 right now in Curious's favor. He has the speed, he does have the better upgrades, but the infestors, if he just attacks into this, and I feel he doesn't necessarily have to, if he attacks into this and gets fumbled in the wrong way.
There's so many spine crawlers, Wolf. This is getting a little bit tricky, but we have a good flank here, trying to come up from 2 angles and sandwich this army, but the infestors are moving in, the spine crawlers are helping out quite a bit, and we have Effort doing a really nice job with the defense so far, but he's down in supply already. He's really trying to holding on, but losing the spine crawlers now, and even a few of the infestors is definitely not working in his favor.
Yeah,
the roach numbers getting crushed here.
GG, just way too many roaches there for Curious, and he also had the surround, basically. The first fumble that we saw only hit like 3 roaches, and then the rest of his investors went down pretty quickly. Just needed a little bit more time there. Really good engagement by Curious, and the story of this game is that Curious got ahead in the early game and didn't make any mistakes and constantly put the pressure on Effort. There was nothing Effort could do to take a faster third and try to get ahead. He was kind of stuck on 2 bases, whereas Curious was controlling the map.
From a strategic point of view, that was very well played by Curious. From the get-go, he put the aggression on Effort, and he never moved back. He always had links just pushing in, trying to run into the main base, sniping a queen here, attacking a hatch there, and that really worked. And Effort was just sitting tight. He couldn't move out. Then Curious takes the third base, he goes into his tech, and he has all the punches there. Even the scout worked so well for him. Curious got 2 links into the main base, he saw the roaches in time to react to them, so that was a great game. Very strategic by Curious, great effort here, no pun intended.
Yeah.
And we're gonna find out, man. I mean, Effort is a great player, and I feel the first game was just like, he got a bit rolled. He made a good job at defending, But that was just really well executed by Curious.
We didn't really
Effort
get
is
to
no
see,
pushover.
yeah,
So
we didn't get to see like a quote-unquote real
Yeah.
game because Effort was basically playing with one hand tied behind his back the whole time. So I'm hoping that on Yunsu we actually get to see that macro game unfold. You know, maybe both players go hatchery first on this map, it's relatively safe, and then we go to that late game, or at least in the mid game, and see how these two players compare when both players are starting from even footing, no build order advantages, no edge.
And you know, I actually really like that Curious decided to be this aggressive in the first game. Starting with the 10 pull here is something that you can definitely do on this map. And he never really overcommitted. That was probably the best thing that he did there. Canceling the hatch, going to main base, sniping a little bit, but then always moving it on. Keeping those Zerglings there as a threat. Worked really well. We're jumping into game number 2, ladies and gentlemen. Curious is ahead in the series. Let's see if Effort come back. We have the GSL Code S